Okay.
Okay, the only person in the so far that's in here is Matthew Alexander, and I put him as a he can talk.
Okay, he can hear us.
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. So so it's 6:31 now. This is not convening any public meeting. This is Dan Losco speaking, the city solicitor. And this is just to advise anybody who has appeared for the 6:30 public hearing that it was postponed because this ordinance that has to do with an adjustment to the Board of Adjustment and zoning in general, zoning regulations must first go to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation. So it was really prematurely put on the agenda for this evening. And likewise, in the regular meeting tonight, there will not be a second reading or vote on Ordinance 534, which again deals with revising the composition of the Board of Adjustment. So that'll all be considered in the March meeting and in the February meeting for the Planning Commission later this month.
All right, thank you.
Just in case, Kim, anybody else shows up a little late at the 6:30 appointed time, why don't we keep the tape rolling here? And if to the extent anybody does come on, I'll make that announcement again.
Okay, sounds good.
Dan, I'm getting into action with the state police again. Sent another letter that you've probably seen a copy of. But it's about their reporting. And in the last month, there were 7 instances of incorrect reporting. And since I sent the letter a week ago, there have been 2 more. So that's 9 incidents, and they're just not responding anymore. It seems to me they're doing us harm. Is there anything we can do legally to get their attention?
Why don't we stop recording for the time being, since this would have nothing to do with the posted agenda item there. So I think hello, this is the solicitor Dan Losco. I just want to advise that we had to postpone the 6:30 public hearing on the Board of Adjustment ordinance because by law that must first go to the Planning Commission for review and recommendation before it can come back to council for a second reading and vote. So it was just prematurely put on there. So Mr. Miller, if you were waiting for that particular hearing, that one's going to be postponed till next month. And you can stop the recording at this point.
To order. Kathy, could I have a roll call, please?
Is Kathy on?
Yeah,
Kathy?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
sorry, I
muted.
was mute.
Okay.
Michael Plat, Chairman.
Present.
Councilperson Valerie Leary.
Present.
Councilperson Russell Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Joseph Finn.
Present.
Councilperson Suzanne Souter.
Present.
City Administrator Bill Barthel.
Present.
Chief McCabe is here. City Solicitor Jen Lusko is here. And Mayor Calandra is here.
Here.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes for January 11th, 2022 regular meeting and the minutes for January 19th, 2022 special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. report from the treasurer.
Hold
Ms.
on one second,
Carlin,
I'll
are you
bring
here
her in.
tonight?
Hold on one second, I'll bring her in.
Okay.
I've been pressing that 4 times and it didn't work. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
This
Ms.
is
Carlin.
hi. This is the unaudited treasurer's report as of January 31st, 2022. The total unrestricted funds is $6,488,825.77. Total restricted funds, $3,012,243.45. Total cash in the accounts, $9,501,069.22. This is, of course, inclusive of the ARPA funds. That's all I have to report this evening.
Any questions for the treasurer? A motion to approve her report.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Report from the city administrator and staff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Platt. I have a few things for council this evening. First off, we did we advertised and received bids for the street projects that we had presented to council in the spring. We had 2 bidders, Cirillo Brothers and Grego and Ferrara, and Cirillo came in at $490,632.50. And Grego and Ferrara was the low bidder at $375,932. So having received the bids, we're hoping to get that construction underway in early spring, hopefully around April. Also wanted to let council, I'm sorry, was there a question?
Sorry, that was a pretty big spread, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And in fact, when I received the numbers, well, we did the bid opening at the city office. And after they left, Dave and I talked a little bit about that. But even so, I even in confirming the numbers in his email to me, he said it never ceases to amaze him how you can get bids from various contractors and have such significant spreads.
Yeah.
And in fact, just on that point, we've had, and there's a couple folks on council currently who are on council, I believe a bunch of years ago when we received and went with a low bidder, someone we had never worked with before. And I won't mention who that was, but we had some issues. We are familiar with these 2 folks, and so we're confident in both of them. So, but it's a good observation.
Mr. Barthel, who did we choose?
Grego and Ferrara.
Okay, just making sure.
Right.
And you're comfortable with the quality of work?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Leary?
Are you able to say we're on the 2 bids? Because obviously they were, both line items were all the same.
Oh no, you'd have to look at, and again, that was part of the, I mean, I certainly can get the results to council and you can take a look at it, but
Just kind of curious, because like you said, it's a widespread, and that was the question I was going to ask, but Mr. Smith already asked it. So.
yeah, I mean, and you can look at the various line items, and this does happen pretty much at every time we do a street bid. You can look and someone will be, say, doing brickwork, and the brickwork from one contractor might be higher than the other contractor, but the paving might be lower than, and so it does vary based on, the type of work that they're actually completing. But certainly we can get these results to council and you can take a look at it.
Yeah, just it's curiosity. So thank
Sure.
you.
No problem. Anything else on the street bids? Okay, just to bring council up to date, I've also been working with Mr. Athey on getting the bid prepared for the floating pier. We've had a number of discussions, and they're going to continue to do a few more studies that we feel need to be done before we can put the bid out for pricing, but we're hoping that that'll be done by April. We're hoping that we'll be able to get the bids out by April. And also just to remind council, I'm also working with Timmy Moore and the folks from Goodwill in regard to the boat ramp that they're working on. And we're both in different phases. I believe right now those guys are still working on permitting. And so they're still working on that, but we are working on both projects together.
Wasn't there a study that had to be done for the fire company for the floating pier? Was that done?
No, for the floating pier, what we're looking at doing right now it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, okay, yeah, we went out with Goodwill and looked at the pier, the location, and that to be sure that it was, that it would meet with that location with what they want to do. So we kind of did that as a visual. We looked at the depth, the water depth with the fire boat that they currently have. So we've kind of done that. The other things that they're studying right now are wave attenuations, because of the location of this particular floating pier as it stands in relation to the current pier. So those are the types of things that Dave and his folks are still looking at. But as far as what we did with Goodwill, we've already done that. But not to make things any more confusing, because as you know, though, Goodwill is also doing their own boat ramp. So we're also kind of, I won't say we're not kind of involved. We are very involved because the funds that the state provided for that came through the city. But that's a different project separate from the floating pier.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Barthel, the floating pier was just pretty much a placement of the boat, what way it was going to go with the tides, correct?
That is part of it, correct.
Right. And the depth of the water.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's part of it.
Thanks,
And then
sir.
as I added, there are some concerns about, like I said, the wave action with that location as it relates to the water, to the depth. So we're doing a little bit more homework on that before we put those bids out. Again, my monthly update on Delmarva, we have a meeting with them on Friday, the one I told you we were going to have last month. It is scheduled for this Friday with the folks from MSC with Delmarva, and I will have more definitive dates for when they will be starting phase 2. But and of course, as that progresses, certainly we'll let folks know. But anyway, I will have more definitive information on that on Friday. And then the last thing I have for council is just to let you know that I'm hoping by the middle of next month, we'll be able to come back to council with some more.
I'm in the middle of a council meeting. Can I
You
call you
might
back?
You might want to mute
Bye.
that.
Bye. My apologies.
Yeah, okay, so what I was saying was hopefully by the middle of next month, we'll be able to come back to council with to continue that discussion in regard to the municipal complex, and provide what you will need at that point to decide whether you want to continue on with the project any further from that point, or at least give you the opportunity to have more discussion. That's all
Any
I
questions
have.
for the city administrator?
If not,
Report from staff?
Chief? Chief, I'm sorry, before you do, Jeff is on vacation and will be back tomorrow, so that's why he's not here this evening. Anyway, sorry about that, Chief.
Okay, thank you. And I can be brief. If there's no questions on the monthly report, I just have one announcement that March 5th is the Attack Addiction Race. I know it's been a couple of years since we've had it. The last time they ran it here was, I think we had close to 5,000 people. So it's a big event. So we're going to put plenty of stuff out in advance, some outreach, letting folks know. But in a nutshell, on March 5th, between 8 and maybe say 11 or so, traffic's going to be significantly restricted downtown. When the race starts at 9, we're going to shut the roads down. And if you're familiar with this race, the city is basically circled by runners and walkers. We've talked to the event coordinator, and we told them at the 60-minute mark, we're going to blow the horn and move everybody onto the sidewalks and open roads up. We consider trying to do an opening as they pass, but because there's so many walkers and the pace is so slow, we can't do that. So we are going to try to find ways to let people in and out if there's a break in the action. So, but we want to get this information out as soon as we can, so folks aren't caught off guard. Again, that's March 5th. The race kicks off at 9 o'clock. It starts from St. Pete's, and it basically it goes down 6th Street to South. They take a left on South. They'll come back up. They'll go to the turnaround. They'll come back up through the park. They'll turn on to Delaware, to the Strand, The only hairy part of this is when they go out to Route 9. We're going to have that road closed off for a little bit with some police vehicle delineators. So there'll be a big presence, police, Del Dot, and fire police for this event. And other than that, we had some, we're getting a handful of complaints about some parking downtown. So what we've done, and some of this came from Public Works as well, having a hard time making some turns based on the way people are parking. We've identified some folks, we've knocked on some doors. We're doing a little bit of outreach down there now to warn people that, you know, if these cars are in crosswalks or they're within intersections, making it hard for fire or Public Works to make these turns, then we're going to cite. And then obviously, if they're that restrictive, where Public Works can't get to where they're going, we'll consider some tows too. So want to get that out to the folks to make sure they you know, pay attention to where they're laying up. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? Mr. Barthel, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Platt, there's one other thing. Thank you. I just wanted to mention to council, if you're not already aware, that the governor is eliminating mask requirements for indoors beginning this Friday. So with that in mind, you may want to consider going back to live meetings, hopefully next month. And that's
Okay,
all I
thank you.
have, Mr. Platt.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barthel. Before we go into council communications, I wanted to start the meeting with this, and I was a little distracted just running late. I want to apologize to Councilman Day because I know he had an ordinance on the table with the board, the Board of Adjustment, and I found out this morning that it had to go in front of planning. So as soon as it goes in front of planning and it's released from there, we can either have a special meeting for the public hearing and then a second reading, or we can just wait till next month's council meeting. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It looks like we lost Mr. Day also. So council communications, Mr. Smith, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Councilperson Leary, anything?
Yes, I just wanted to say that the first annual Historic Newcastle Restaurant Week is off and running. There's a lot of buzz about it on the streets, on our Facebook event, on the website. And Delaware Today will be pushing out marketing on it, 2 newsletters, an email blast, and a banner ad on it in the next week and a half as we get closer to it. I recommend that y'all make reservations because it looks like they're going to be pretty booked. And but the restaurants are really excited about it, and especially since it's February and it brings feet to the street. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Councilperson Leary. Councilperson Sodders, anything?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Business from Mayor. Mr. Mayor, anything?
Of course, thank you very much. So a couple things. I see Mr. Day is.
Mr. Mayor, can I just interrupt for a second? And Mr. Day, do you have anything for council communication?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So, well, good evening, everybody. Number of things. One, this is Black History Month, and I want to acknowledge our neighbors, friends, and families from the Black community who are part of our rich history and life today. We're grateful for their many contributions to our collective lives here in the city, and I wanted to pause and have everybody reflect upon that for a moment. You've got 2 resolutions tonight pertaining to the City Planning Commission. One is the nomination of Cynthia Batty of East 3rd Street to serve out the remainder of the term of Commissioner Walters. I know Ms. Batty has reached out to all of you and in my estimation would be a good and thoughtful contributor to the commission, and I would urge her approval. In addition, the Planning Commission has endorsed the nomination of Mr. Matthew Lovely of East 5th Street to be the Planning Commission representative to the Historic Area Commission. I wholeheartedly support this nomination too. In addition to being a long-term resident, Matthew and his wife Esther are former owners of a local business that was in the Historic District, and the combined experience of being a resident and a building owner with a small business in the Historic District will be a valuable addition to the Commission's deliberations. Also want to talk about, Ms. Leary touched on this, February 24th through the 27th. To be precise, several of our restaurants will be participating in the historic Newcastle Restaurant Weekend. And I encourage you to patronize the participating restaurants and any of our other food purveyors, whether it's Friday's Three Countries Pizza, IHOP, those participating, they'll all appreciate your business, every one of them. We've got a lot of restaurants throughout the city. There are about 1,900 independent restaurants throughout the state of Delaware. And that sector of our economy, as we all know, was hit very, very hard over the last 2 years. So efforts like this, I applaud. And the broadest amount of participation, whether it's takeout from somebody or any of the sit-down restaurants around the city, I'm sure they'd be grateful for your support. The Volunteer Arts Council met last week. They're busy putting together programming together for the remainder of the year. So it is reasonable to expect that you'll see Opera Delaware again, a couple of movies in Battery Park, and potential visits by street musicians busking, Delaware Ballet, music, art, and more. Our calendar is out, and I want to publicly thank Bruce Burke for his past support for the calendar. Dennis Young has also been a contributor. This year, our cover photo is from Mark Leary, and I want to thank Mark for allowing us to use that beautiful photo of the farmhouse. I know there's been interest and action by members of council and the trustees on the idea of a dog park, which I support. I'm happy to reach out to area businesses and solicit support for the construction of a park. Got many residents who are dog owners, and providing a space for our four-legged friends to run, socialize, and exercise is a benefit to all owners. So let me close out on this point by thanking the trustees for their donation of land for this endeavor. And finally, I'll close with this. Valentine's Day is 6 days from now. So if you haven't already made plans for that special someone, it's time to get busy. Mr. Plat, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure where to go with this, and I just want to throw it out there because I've heard different people, even other council people, where individuals and other groups are using the city's logo and the city's emblem. I'm not sure why. They have every right to, but they are not associated with the city.
Well, Mike,
The only people, excuse me, Mr. Smith, the only people associated with the city right now are the people sitting at this table, and we may not always agree, but we are the elected officials of this city and city employees. And I guess my advice to anyone in the city that doesn't feel that they're not meeting somebody with official capabilities or meeting with an imposter, that they contact the city administrator or even 911, because there should be no one going around flashing the city's emblem without permission of, or without being elected or hired by the city. That's all I have.
I just wanted to mention, Michael, that the branding system and the logos are owned by the city and NCCP, and that is it. No one else has any right to use any of that.
Okay,
Just
that I'm
just
not
that
100% sure of if they're trademarked or
just
not.
in the legal, no, yeah, it's a legal matter. It's in the branding guide.
Okay, and Mr. Smith, I appreciate your advice. Like I said, it was brought to my attention, and I just don't think there should be imposters out there representing the city without the authority to do it.
Absolutely. I just wanted to clarify, since I had dealt with that recently.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Day, also like to apologize to you about the not having your second reading tonight in a special meeting. It was brought up to me earlier this morning that I had to go in front of planning, and I know you checked out for a second whether it was technical difficulties or not. And if you didn't hear what I said once it comes out of planning, we can either set up a special meeting and then a special council meeting, or a special hearing, then a special council meeting to vote on it, or we can wait until March's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's fine waiting until March's meeting.
Okay, I just wanted your opinion on that, okay, sir?
I appreciate the offer.
All right, thank you. We're gonna move along then. We're gonna skip around here a little bit tonight. The first order of business is going to be a resolution honoring the life of William Walters. And if I may have the mayor who served with him on planning read the resolution, I would appreciate that.
Happy
Mr.
to read it.
Mayor?
Thank you very much. Yep, happy to read it. Thank you. Before I read this, I guess just maybe an overall statement. We appreciate all the people that raise their hand to serve in public life, everybody that I'm looking at here, but also all the folks that serve on all of our boards and commissions. We're grateful for their time, their talent. All of them are in those positions because they have something to contribute. And Bill was, of course, no exception to that. He had an extraordinary career, and we were very fortunate to have him as a member of the Planning Commission. So without anything further, let me read Resolution 2022-01, a resolution honoring the life of William H. Bill Walters, Planning Commission member and Historic Area Commission member. Whereas the city of Newcastle was deeply saddened by the death of one of its citizens, William H. Walters, who passed away on Saturday, January 1st, 2022. And whereas William H. Walters was born in Philadelphia on July 29, 1950. He attended LaSalle College High School and later earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business and Juris Doctorate from Villanova Law School. Bill was inducted into the Big Five Hall of Fame as a member of Penn's basketball team from 1968 to 1972. And whereas William H. Walters served the city on the Planning Commission, where he assisted with the latest comprehensive plan and was the Planning Commission's representative to the Historic Area Commission, his knowledge of law, real estate, building codes, and development made him a great asset to these commissions. And whereas William H. Walters loved being near the water as he grew up, and when he and Brenda came to Newcastle, they settled near the Delaware River. Bill loved living in Newcastle and was often seen with his faithful dogs, Belle and Scout, walking along the river. Bill will always be remembered for his many contributions to the city and for his wit and candor. He is survived by his loving wife of 36 years, Brenda, 5 children, 7 grandchildren, along with many friends he made throughout his life. Now, therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that the mayor and members of the city council desire to publicly acknowledge the accomplishments and legacy of William H. Walters and recognize his service to his community, and direct this resolution to be spread upon the minutes of the February 8, 2022 council meeting, and a copy be forwarded to his family, to the family he so cherished. Plat, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And let's all just remember him and his family in your prayers as you go about your normal routines. At this moment, we'll take comments from the floor. They are on either agenda items or just general items. 3 minutes. I see Mr. Miller has his hand up. Mr. Miller.
Oh, okay. Okay, can I be heard now?
You're heard.
Okay, yeah, hi. I just wanted to bring up something for council to consider regarding WMAPCO's proposal to, I still don't understand exactly what it is that they're doing or they plan to do, but they brought it up a few months ago. With the, as you're coming on Route 9 from Wilmington, that left-hand turn to get into, into the historic area. I had an idea about that. I was told that I wasn't the only one. It's come up before, which doesn't surprise me. I'm surprised I didn't think of it before myself. But I'm wondering, just in light of the, my complaints and other complaints about the, the people that cut through town, which has been a big topic for a while now, and the speeding that goes on. it occurred to me, rather than do speed bumps or increase signage or go one way, the other way on 3rd Street, or, more police presence and all these other things, it just occurred to me, why not just shut that off altogether? I had a long talk with a lady from Wilmapco about this, and she seemed open to the idea, she's going to consider it, I guess, along with all the other things that, that were brought up before. But my thinking is this, that, you would leave the exit from town out onto Route 9 open, and that if you're coming the other way, let's say you're coming, from the traffic light there, like where the Walgreens is, you're headed like toward Wilmington, and of course you can make a right, right in that area as well. But I thought, well, this could really dissuade, people from cutting through. And, what's the downside of it? Possibly a little less convenient for those of us that, live here or want to visit here. But all you'd really have to do is just go up, to the next stop sign there, and make your left. Then all you have to deal with would be, the oncoming traffic, which can be a nuisance, because they tend to come flying around that corner. In which case, I mean, why not do a 4-way stop there too? It's something that, to consider. Anyway, it's just something that I thought of. If it's something that's considered and eventually acted upon, I'm thinking, well, it would save, a lot of time, money, and trouble with all the, work that's being planned. I'm sure that had messed traffic up for a while. And, I'm struggling to see a downside from it. Maybe some of you have some thoughts about this, but I think it's something that ought to be considered anyway. I mean, not much we can do about the incredible influx of traffic that we get here, but this is just one little thing I think that could maybe at least cut down on it, coming through 3rd Street. Wouldn't help 6th Street any, but I'm thinking that's going to see more people probably just going up through 6th Street that are trying to cut through town anyway, because they don't have to wait a couple minutes for that light anymore. I think it's a lot faster now, so maybe we'll see changes in traffic patterns, because of that. But anyway, I'm just looking at this, of course, through the eyes of an East 3rd Street, resident. And I'm also trying to take into account how other people, that live in town.
Mr. Miller, thank you for Mr. Miller, your 3 minutes are up. Thank you for your opinion. Like I said, the experts are working on these problems right now, the traffic engineers with Will Mapco, so they are on it. Kim, could you let the next person in, please?
Okay, I'm going to bring in Mr. Gross.
Good evening, Council. Fortunately, my next statements were caught on video, so anything that I'm about to say can certainly be proven. At December 14th City Council meeting, I was verbally attacked by President Plat, and it was totally unprovoked. In his inflammatory attack, he tried to discredit, belittle, and made basically personal statements against me in a public setting. His statements were not only inflammatory, but also upsetting and, of course, very unprofessional as a sitting council president. Mr. Plat not only yelled, but raised himself out of his seat. His temper continued to flare. This is not the first time he's attacked me verbally. Then I read in the local paper that he has a permit to carry a gun. Seriously, with this kind of anger management problem, I think that needs to be addressed. After reading this last week, I became very concerned and basically upset. His comments were not only inappropriate, but were unethical and showed a side of him that I don't think the public has been exposed to. I have been. He should step down immediately and his gun turned in. His attack again was unprofessional, and as a public official, he should be held to a higher standard and held accountable for his inappropriate, unethical actions. Thank you, counsel.
Okay, let's discuss this a little bit further before you go to the next person. I'm not quite sure what he's talking about, but anything that I said was absolutely true. I don't remember getting out of my seat. Anybody can do this. It's kind of funny that I'm attacked like that. The man has made false accusations against me to the chief of police, which cannot be proven. Whether I have a carry permit or not is no one else's business. It may be public record, but it's nobody else's business. And I have a hard time with those statements because anything I've said, I can prove, and they are truthful. That's all I got.
I have Mr. Bemo, LBEMO with his hand up. No, I think he took his hand down. I don't, okay, hold
No,
on.
it's still up. Nemo?
Hello?
Nemo.
Do you got me?
Yes.
Okay, it's Bill Emmer. You said, I guess you said BMO. Kind of caught me off guard.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Thanks, guys. Just a few things. I'm going to bring up the railing down the wharf. I've not seen anything going on down there, guys. I don't know if that's kind of fallen off your radar or not, but that just want to bring a reminder up about that. It's it's something that's going to continually getting worse and going to cost the city more and more money about that. Something that I'm going to keep bugging you guys about again is the stop sign at 3rd and Delaware Street. I've got a log that I've been keeping, and it's getting out of control. Just today, I saw one of our citizens walking her dog who got chased across the crosswalk as a car ran through the intersection. Didn't get close to hitting her, but it chased her across there. If she hadn't have moved pretty quickly, it could have turned out to be an incident. Wanted to say something in reference to the Board of Adjustment from Councilman Bay's, resolutions. He's trying to move forward, and the amount of support that is building in the city for that. I speak with many of the citizens, and there is a lot of support for that. The people like the fact that the number of citizens that will have a voice on that commission. There's just a lot of support for that. And a question on this pier going on the wharf. Any potential for that to become a transient wharf or transient pier, I'm sorry, in the future? It's just something that over the years that I've run for council, it was something that I had always tried to push in my agenda to help bring patrons into the town to obviously eat in our restaurants, shop in our shops. And this was actually even an idea of mine before our T pier got built. This was a floating pier idea that I had, like I said, 20 years ago, or even more when I first ran for council, my first time. So it is something I would still strongly support and try to push for. This is a starting idea. I would strongly suggest that council always keep that in the back of their mind and keep that on the plate. Being we're going there, obviously, in the very near future, this is something that can, obviously be on the table in the near future. And let me see if I have that touches the last item. High water problems. You were told, the gentleman, Mr. Miller, brought up Wilpaco. The Route 9 bridge over there by the ice cream corral. The high water that we're getting there is getting out of control. Newcastle is a stomping ground. We're getting left in the background by the state of Delaware. This has been going on way too long, and Newcastle is letting us be stomped on by the state of Delaware. Our council is there to take care of the people of Newcastle. We are not doing anything to control it.
Mr. Emery, your 3 minutes are up.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on back to old business. Council discussion and possible placement on where to place electric vehicles to charging stations. As of right now, we have a few at the 3rd Street parking lot, which the trust owns. We have one at the Chestnut Street parking lot, the trust also owns. And there's been one put into the city parking lot at Delaware and 7th Street. I think council has to make a decision pretty soon. These things are starting to become, the longer we wait, the more obsolete they become. Let's put it that way. So in our thing, there are some places, I know the library parking lot was a suggestion. One of the big suggestions from planning, even MSC, was along the triangle across from the War Memorial. It's out of the way. We could clean that area up. It'd be a nice little destination. People could walk into town, that type of thing. But I'm going to open up on the floor and see what some other opinions are. Councilperson Leary, you can go first, please.
And I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but I believe the library parking lot is no longer an option.
Okay.
I'm not, that's why I'm asking if I heard that they had declined to have one there. I
Okay,
seen
it's just
Mayor
in the notes,
Corona
so it
nodding
doesn't
his
say
head,
that. That's fair.
okay. 2nd and Chestnut, that's the, that's already on the board for
Right.
one there. Tennis court parking lot, I think is a great idea. Parking area by the sailing club, wharf parking area. I think some additional parking areas within the city of Newcastle outside of the historic area may be good, but you have to look at the variety of, the majority of folks who are needing these. Post office parking lot, I'm on that one. How many of these do we have now left?
I think it's 5.
4. So 2nd and Chestnut, the tennis court parking lot near the sailing club, the wharf area, that's 4. So I'm kind of up in the air about the placement of the 5th one. That's all.
Mr. Smith?
Is that what we're dealing with, 5 now?
I think so.
Placing 5. These are good suggestions, I think. Tennis court, the sailing club, and the post office, I think, is good. There are a lot of people who live in that area. And since the library parking lot is apparently off the table, I think that would be appropriate. Farmers market, I guess, yeah. I think it seems like that should be a business concern rather than the city, I guess. As you know, I'm not a big fan of putting one down by the Veterans Triangle. I just don't think it would get used down there. People from within the city would have to walk down there, walk back, and I still don't think that visitors will want to park there and then walk into the city. Not the visitors we have now. If we have more young, healthy visitors, maybe, but I don't think it would see that much use. And if we have a time limit on it, that might be an issue as well. So I think there's some good ideas here. And I think the Deemer's Landing and the Helm, the commercial areas obviously should get on it. and the River Plaza Shopping Center as well. They have the obligation to provide that more than we do.
That's a good point. Councilperson Souter?
I like a lot of these ideas. I do think we shouldn't concentrate them all in the downtown area. It becomes sort of circular if you say, well, people in the other outlying areas don't have electric vehicles. Well, maybe they don't have electric vehicles because there's no place to charge them. So, you know, maybe at least one in Van Dyke, or, you know, at least spread them out a little more, not concentrate them all in the downtown area.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Councilman
think
Day?
of. Sorry.
That's it. Thank you. So who did the list that we got with the recommendations come from? The Planning Commission, or did it come from somebody else?
It came from Planning and MSC.
Okay, thank you. So as I understand it, we're in the process for Second Chestnut. The new Third Street parking lot has one, and Delaware Street is getting one at 7th.
It's already there
Okay,
at the Chili's Chicken.
yep.
Correct.
Got you. So I agree with the tennis court, the sailing club, and the post office. And I don't disagree that it would be nice to spread them out in other communities, but I don't know how many other communities have parking lots, or if we're going to be willing to put them in just a right of way. That I think that's where you have problems when you're looking at the other neighborhoods. But maybe there's a creative solution we could come up with.
Right. Mr. Day, I would agree with you in the right of way. I think that could create major problems amongst neighbors as of right now. Once you get outside the downtown area, most people have driveways. Like, to be honest, to put one in Van Dyke, it just wouldn't make sense.
Well,
I think
right.
everyone here has a driveway. And before we go any further, why don't we let the mayor jump in and just see what he has, since he has some experience with this and he actually owns one.
Thank
I
you.
guess my question to the mayor would be, if the city or business is putting these in, are we putting them in to have revenue to the city, because eventually MSC, or not to the city, to MSC, because eventually MSC will be charging? Or are we putting them in for a convenience to attract people to come to the city? Or thirdly, are they being put in for residential use?
Okay, all good questions. So presently, while the units we originally had in were free, they now have been enabled by SemaConnect, so they all do charge. There are fees. You have to download the SemaConnect app. You have to have a credit card associated, or a debit card, electronic form of payment associated with that card, and you're off to the races, and you can charge. Now, remember, there's a couple things that are really important for this kind of a conversation. There are different statuses of charge, right? There's the chargers that we have, all 9 of them are level 2 chargers. Those are, for a vehicle like mine, takes about 8 to 10 hours to get it fully charged. So if I plug it in tonight at 9 o'clock tonight, I'll be fully loaded by 6 a.m. So places like Portofino's, Farmers Market, where visitors are typically there for about an hour, sometimes less. A car like mine in 30 minutes can get up to 80% with a level 3 charger. Now, Denrec is making level 3 chargers available, and there's grant money for the installation. There's a lot more that's coming, but that's coming starting the next fiscal year, which for the state begins July 1st. I know that Rivertown's Plaza ownership has already had conversations with NSC. There are other places, because we do have a number of neighborhoods with people who have limited off-street parking options. So there is a parking lot here in Shawtown off Gray Street. It's a city parking lot. It's right by the water tower. There's parking right now, I think, for about 8 or 10 cars over there. It's a much bigger piece of ground than that, and it could be expanded. But as you walk the streets over here, There are precious little off-street parking options for several different blocks of residents who are here. So that would, I'm sure, be met with a great amount of interest. Similarly, I think you ought to think about a place over in Buttonwood. There too are a number of properties without off-street parking, without access to garages. And if you think of Jackett, you think of William Penn Square, you think of those streets, all those people park in front of their properties, but they're not in garages. So I think those would be options that I think make sense for people visiting, staying in the park, enjoying some of the amenities downtown, museums, the park, the shops, restaurants. That was the theory behind the placement of the units in the new parking lot. And there are 2 there with 4 handles. So you've got a number of things to think about. I would encourage you to think about Gray Street, the Boothurst Buttonwood area. The post office does make sense to me. But I think you've got to think more broadly about residential use. We are way ahead of the curve. I know that Scott Blomquist has been invited to speak to different local municipal groups about the steps we've taken. We are way ahead of just about anybody in the state in this. So my hat is off to all of you. Hope that helps.
I do think we should make a decision tonight on where to put the remaining 5. We've had these since last spring, something like that. And, we've already got 2 in the 3rd Street lot. We know, and then we just need to go from there. So, 2nd and Chestnut, there's 1. I think everybody was in agreement. Tennis court, I think, was in agreement. Sailing club, post office was 1.
Wait, let's hold on a second. No, not everybody's in agreement with the sailing club because MSC said that was a bad idea.
Okay, then we strike that. Well, I'm just saying people mentioned where they thought it was
MSC said that was a bad idea.
near
And
the
then
sailing
wharf-
club.
And then the wharf also, from what I understand, we added 5 parking spots when we redid that. Now we're going to take up 2 for a charging station. So that's probably not a good idea either.
And remember, in order for anybody to get the benefit of this, they're going to have to be there 7 or 8 hours. I'm not sure they're
That's
going to
right.
be.
And that's why I'm saying the Chestnut Street cutoff, MSC said they could, Scott Bloomquist thought that was a great idea. He could put 2 lights down there, people could park their cars overnight and they're good to go.
That's really too far to walk for anyone, for residents, for visitors.
I disagree. You go to the Phillies game and you walk 2 miles to get to whatever. And then
I don't
Mr. Smith says till we get a younger crowd. What are we going to wait till our tourists die off? I mean, it's just, I just don't I don't understand that point of view. People walk everywhere.
All right.
I don't know, the post office, if we were going to do the post office, I'd like to talk to the people that park there because that's a residential parking area. And it's been used for years, even though it's trustees' land. People on Cherry Street, there's no parking. And well, 5th Street, you got semi-parking, but that lot's full right now. You tie up 4 parking spots for electric vehicles. It's there. I like the farmer's market personally because it's out on the highway and it attracts people to the city of Newcastle. They park their cars, whether they walk or just walk around the farmer's market. To me, that's a good idea. That wasn't even on the list prior.
That's a good idea for the farmer's market to do and to pay for.
Well, once again, I asked the question, what is our goal here? Is it for residents or is it for visitors?
Yeah, I mean, visitors, I guess if they were really low and they were here for an hour or 2, it would bump them up a little bit, maybe help them get home, but they're not going to get fully charged.
Correct.
So it seems like it's more for residents, in which case the mayor's suggestion of the Gray Street parking area sounds like a good one to me. The post office, I agree with you, Mr. Platt, that it depends on what the neighbors think. That's not that big a lot.
Well, the Chestnut Street lot is already full as well. And so you're taking away 2 spaces there. It's got, wherever you put them, it's going to be a trade-off. And these are probably cars that would be, once, I think 9% of cars sold last year were electric vehicles. So, these people, there will be electric vehicles parked in these lots anyway. So are you really taking anything away?
Well, yes. And I think down the road, there's going to have to be, not just here within the city, but nationally, some type of designation for this. Right now, there is none. Like if somebody was to park an electric charging station at Christiana Hospital, they can't get a ticket, they can't do anything. You can just park there. I 100% agree with Councilperson Leary. We have to make a decision on these things because they're becoming obsolete as they sit in MSC's yard.
Well, Mr. Mayor, when's the next generation of charger going to be ready? Where, people get a charge in 30 minutes. That's going to make all the difference in the world.
So the level 3s, Mr. Platt, you all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the level 3s exist. That's what's over at Wawa, over at Memorial Drive, and it's also at the travel plazas on the interstate. Those are all level 3s. It is typical in communities like ours to spread out level 2s because it tends to be an overnight event for people to get charged up because it takes hours. A level 2 is a 240. It's like a dryer plug. So it takes about,
220,
depending on the car, 7 to 8 hours. So you want to think about those really kind of in a residential context. It's great that they're in Battery Park because we have neighbors that live within proximity to the park, and they can leave their car there overnight. And but I think you've got areas where you don't have off-street parking. I mentioned those. Gray Street handles Shawtown. Somewhere over in Buttonwood or Jacquet or William Penn Square handles a whole bunch of neighbors over there that don't have off-street parking options. And then I think, when you've got other people you got other entities in places like Rivertown's Plaza, the farmer's market, that's where you're going to want to have level 3 chargers. And DENREC is going to have some level 3 options available that are greatly subsidized. And that'll happen after the next fiscal year starts, which will be July 1st. And that's when a lot of those will be spread about more regularly. Right now, they kind of dot interstate highways. If you look at maps, but level 2 chargers are the most prolific, but they tend to be a longer term kind of a residential solution.
If I can make a suggestion, I think we're all kind of going round robin right now. If I could have another council person and we could go over what planning recommended and maybe take another tour of the city with Scott Bloomquist, seeing what he recommends, and then come back next month with a little bit firmer information.
If I can just add one more thing, Michael.
Sure.
It seems like we're on the verge of one decision, and that is these chargers are for city residents.
Correct.
Okay, so we made one decision, I think, and now maybe proceed the way you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a reasonable plan.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to volunteer?
I don't mind.
Don't everybody speak at once. I know, Mr. Day, you work full time, and that's the hard part sometimes with a young, healthy council. But if you want to volunteer, we get up with Mr. Bloomquist one afternoon and just take a ride around town.
Yep, I don't mind helping at all. The only thing I was going to say tonight, though, is if we could all agree on 1 or 2, can we at least get them approved? I mean, I don't think anybody said no to the tennis courts.
No, I'm okay with that. Let's do that.
So at least we can get another one started, if we all agree. That's just a suggestion.
Makes sense.
Are we good on Second and Chestnut? Because I know we've talked about that for a long time.
That's been approved by the trust.
Okay, so then the next is the tennis court parking lot.
Correct.
And is that 1 or 2?
Well, let's do one for right now.
Okay. In the 3rd Street lot, there is already 2 now? Okay,
Correct. There's 4 charging stations.
okay.
So
What
and
about
I'm
the
just saying
Gray-
we're concentrating there. Why, like I said, why
What
don't we
about the
take a
Gray
ride
Street
around?
lot that the mayor mentioned?
Correct. Let's take a ride around with Mr. Bloomquist. Mr. Day will set up maybe one afternoon where we can do that and come back and make our recommendations to the best spots for the other 3. So Mr. Barthel, right now, we can get up with MSC and put 1 in the tennis court parking lot. And that's the only one we're agreed on tonight, correct?
Second Chestnut was already approved.
That's already in. That's. yeah,
What
that's
about
already
Gray
in.
Street? What about the Gray Street parking lot that the mayor suggested?
Is there, I think that's a good one to look at, but we have to have MSCs, like, is there an electrical issue there?
Well,
Correct.
that's true. We
That
need
was
to-
not- that was not on MSC's radar.
Oh,
Just-
okay. So they
'cause
need
I-
to check it out.
Right now, I went around with Mr. Bloomquist and, and that wasn't on their radar. So that's one worth looking at. Like I said, we'll take a look at the rest of these things and just come back to 2 of us can, Mr. Day, you're going to accompany us.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then let's do it that way. We're gonna put 1 in the tennis court parking lot. And then the other 3 will be decided next month. Okay, moving
good.
on. Discussion and possible vote on resolution 2022-2, a resolution to approve the mayor's appointment to the planning commission to fill the unexpired term of William Waters. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, here's the reading. A resolution. I'm sorry.
I got it in front of me. You want me to read it?
No, I just lost my screen, actually. A
Okay.
resolution to approve the mayor's appointment to the planning commission to fulfill the unexpired term of William Water. Whereas the city of Newcastle code provides that the mayor of the city of Newcastle appoint 9 members to the planning commission, subject to confirmation by city council, each for a 3-year term. And whereas there is currently one vacant position on the planning commission. Whereas city council proposed to confirm the appointment of Cynthia Batty to fulfill the unexpired term of William Walters, that term ending April 14th, 2023. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the city council hereby appoints the following person to the planning commission: Cynthia Batty, planning commission, term ending April 14th, 2023. And I did see Miss Batty in the audience. If she'd like to come in, let her in.
Can you hear
Good
me?
evening, Miss Batty. How are you tonight?
I'm fine. You can put my picture up if you want.
I don't know how to do that.
Very good.
You'd have to talk
You
to
have people
Kim.
who do.
First off, I'd like to thank you for stepping forward to serve.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to have the nomination from Mayor Cronta and the support of all of you who've been wonderful friends and supporters all this time. And I just want to say that I fully recognize that Newcastle is a big place and it has a lot of stakeholders. And I'm very committed to doing all of the best possible decisions for everyone in the city. And so I want to reassure you of that, despite the fact that I'm here on 3rd Street. So thank you again so much for your confidence.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Batty?
No, but thank you for serving.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Council discussion, motion, possible vote on resolution 2022-03, a resolution appointing Matthew Lovelace to the Planning Commission, represented to the Historic Area Commission to fulfill the unexpired term of William Walters.
So moved.
I have a motion entertained.
So
Second.
moved.
Okay. Ms. Lear, would you like to read this resolution?
Sure. Let me flip to it. Resolution 2022-03, a resolution appointing Matthew Lovely as the Planning Commission representative to the Historic Area Commission to fulfill the unexpired term of William Walters. Whereas the Newcastle City Code provides that the City Council shall appoint one member of the Planning Commission to serve on the Historic Area Commission. And whereas the current term of the Planning Commission representative to the Historic Area Commission has been vacated, and whereas the City Council has nominated Matthew Lovely to serve as the Planning Commission representative on the Historic Area Commission to fulfill the unexpired term of William Walters. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council hereby appoints Planning Commission member Matthew Lovely to act as the Planning Commission's representative on the Historic Area Commission, with that term ending on November 12th, 2022. Matthew Lovely, Planning Commission representative to the Historic Area Commission, term ending November 12th, 2022.
It's lovely you're in the audience. Would you like to say anything to anyone?
No further comments at this time. I appreciate the opportunity to serve and looking forward to it. I'm no Bill Walters, that's for sure, but I'll do the best I can. Thank you very much.
You have some big shoes to fill, but I think you'll be okay. Thank you for serving, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Congratulations, Matt.
Yep. Okay, first reading of ordinance 535, an ordinance to amend section 213-5, 213-7 of the city code to revise certain definitions, to amend section 230-21 to clarify special exemption requirements in the downtown gateway district and removal of redundant language, to amend section 230-46 to revise site plan requirements and procedures. And this one is quite a lengthy one, and Mr. Lasko volunteered to read it, so I think I will take him up on that. And Mr. Lasko, if you want anybody else to jump in, feel free to ask, okay?
If I went out of breath, I'll let you know. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. President. All right, whereas section 213.5 contains a definition of minor subdivision that no longer reflects the intent of city council in administering that section. And whereas section 213-7 contains procedural inconsistencies that rely on the outdated definition of a minor subdivision contained in 213-5. And whereas the city council wishes to revise sections 213-5 and 213-7 to ensure consistency with the council's intent for the benefit of the city and the welfare of its citizens. And whereas 230-21 contains language regarding special exceptions that is redundant due to recent revisions to sections 230-57. And whereas city council believes section 230-21 requires further clarification of conditions to certain uses permitted by special exception. And whereas city council wishes to revise section 230-21 to remove said redundancies and ensure clarity regarding conditions which apply by default to certain uses permitted by special exception. And whereas city council believes it's in the best interest of the city to revise the site plan requirements and related procedures contained in section 230-46 for more efficient and effective administration of the site plan review and approval process. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Newcastle as follows. Section 1, the definition of subdivision minor contained in section 213-5 of the city code is hereby deleted in its entirety, and a definition for the term re-subdivision added to such section as follows. Section 213-5 definitions, re-subdivision, a modification, division, addition, deletion, or correction to a previously recorded lot or lots that does not create a new building lot and that does not alter a public right-of-way or conflict with the official map of the city. Examples of a re-subdivision include but are not limited to a lot line adjustment where no new building lots are created, or the extinguishment of an existing lot line whereby two existing lots are combined into one lot. Section 2. Sections 213-7 C 3-4 are hereby deleted in their entirety and replaced with the following. Section 213-7, plan processing procedure. Item C, approval of final plat. Number 3, when the final plat includes establishment of new streets or dedication of land for streets, public ways, or public facilities, approval will be by ordinance of City Council on the recommendation of the Planning Commission with the advice of the building official. The ordinance, upon approval by the mayor, will constitute approval of the final plat, establishment of the new streets on the city map or plan, and acceptance of the dedications provided for in the final plat, provided, however, that acceptance of the dedications shall not expose to the city to a liability or obligation for maintenance or repair of streets, but such liability or obligation shall arise only following the building official's written acceptance of completion. Item 4, when the final plat does not include site improvements or establishment of new streets or public ways or dedication of lands for public purposes, approval will be by resolution of City Council on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Section 3, a new section 213-7D is added to the city code, which section shall read in its entirety as follows. Section 213-7D, approval of re-subdivision plat. Number 1, re-subdivision plat shall be reviewed and approved by the building official. Number 2, re-subdivision plat shall not create a violation of the schedule of zone regulations contained in Chapter 230 or increase an existing non-conforming situation relative to the schedule of zone regulations. Number 3, re-subdivision plat shall contain the same information as the final plat as determined by the building official and shall contain a note clearly stating the purpose and intent of the subject re-subdivision. Number 4, re-subdivision plats approved by the building official shall be forwarded to the City Council for approval by resolution. And number 5, the subdivider will promptly file the recorded re-subdivision plat and accompanying documents with the Recorder of Deeds of Newcastle County and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Section 4, Section 213-9A is hereby amended to delete the word major from Section 1, subsection 1, to delete the existing subsection 2, and to renumber subsequent unaffected subsection numbers accordingly as follows. Section 213-9, general requirements. A, utilities. Item 1, all subdivision utilities shall be below ground. Number 2, all utilities shall be installed according to the approval granted and shall be installed prior to completion of the paved area. The full intent of this subsection is to avoid installation of utilities after streets have been completed and accepted for maintenance by the city. Number 3, when easements are required for utilities, they must be a minimum width of 10 feet along rear lot lines and 10 feet along lot lines and shall be adjacent to or centered on the respective lot lines. Electric, telephone, and cable lines shall be along rear lot lines wherever possible. Item 4, all trenches, storm, utility, etc., under roadway within the public dedicated right-of-way shall be backfilled with approved materials and properly compacted in accordance with city specifications. Number 5, the subdivider shall obtain all necessary approvals and permits from each utility prior to the installation of that utility within any right-of-way, which is intended to become part of the Newcastle street system. These permits or approvals shall be drawn up in the form as established by the city and shall ensure that the utilities will be installed according to the standards, plans, specifications, rules, and regulations of the city, and that the installation of utilities will not interfere with necessary construction, operation, or maintenance of the roadway after it's been accepted as part of the Newcastle City road system. Item 6, no parts of the cost of construction of utilities shall be borne by the city. Section 5, Section 230-21.1C is hereby deleted in its entirety. retitled Conditions for Certain Uses Permitted by Special Exception, and replaced with the following. Section 230-21.1 Downtown Gateway, DG. Item subsection C, conditions for certain uses permitted by special exception. Item 1, non-residential mixed and multifamily uses. A, the building footprint shall not exceed 40,000 square feet. B, buildings, driveways, parking areas, loading areas, outdoor activity areas, light sources, and refuse areas shall be located and designed to minimize adverse impacts on abutting residential properties. Alternative site layouts, including increased setbacks from residential property lines, different locations of buildings, parking areas and driveways, incorporating loading and trash collection areas as part of the principle of building design, and increased screening for light sources and outdoor activity areas may be prescribed by the Board of Adjustment in order to limit adverse impact of a proposed use, as well as fulfill the legislative intent of the Downtown Gateway zoning district. Item 2, residential uses including single-family dwellings and two-family dwellings. See lot size, bulk, and yard requirements in Chapter 30, Attachment 1, Schedule of District Regulations for R3 residential. Item 3, parking garages. Retail storefronts or other active uses at the street level are required on front facades of parking garages. See Table 2. Table 2 then is presented, and it's a cross-section of a parking garage with ground floor retail space that is the same as is in the existing code. Subsection B, utilitarian appearances of parking structures such as sloping levels and untreated concrete levels are not permitted. Structures shall have design treatments such as colonnades, arcades, awnings, landscaping, street furniture, and other public amenities to create the appearance of an occupied building. Blank walls are not permitted. Item C, cars shall be visually screened from adjacent buildings and the street, and such screening shall be in keeping with the rest of the building's architectural style and materials. Item D, vehicular access to parking garages shall be access to the side or rear of the building. Subsection or Section 6, Sections 230-46 is hereby deleted in its entirety and replaced with the following. Section 230-46, site plan review and approval. Subsection A, development applications involving a multifamily or non-residential use shall be accompanied by a site plan for review and approval by the Planning Commission. B, the purpose of a site plan is to ensure detailed compliance with applicable provisions of enacted regulations and to prescribe standards for the design and construction of site improvements. Development requiring site plan approval shall be permitted only in accordance with all specifications contained on an approved site plan and shall not be undertaken until the site plan is approved and all required construction permits have been obtained subsequent to such approval. Item C, site plan applications shall include the information listed in Attachment 2 to Chapter 230 of the City Code, hereinafter Attachment 2. The Planning Commission may waive any information required in Attachment 2 if it deems the information unnecessary to confirm compliance with this chapter or other state, federal, state, county, or city regulations. Item D, incomplete site plan shall be returned to the applicant at the discretion of the building official. Item E, the Planning Commission's review of the site plan shall include, but is not limited to, the following considerations. Number 1, adequacy and arrangement of vehicular traffic access and circulation, including emergency vehicle access. Item 2, location, arrangement, appearance, and sufficiency of off-street parking and loading. Item 3, location, arrangement, size, and design of buildings, lighting, and signs. Item 4, relationship of the various uses to one another and their scale. Item 5, adequacy, type, and arrangement of trees, shrubs, and other landscaping constituting a visual and noise buffer between adjacent uses and adjoining lands. Item 6, adequacy of structures, roadways, and landscaping in areas susceptible to flooding and ponding or erosion. Item 7, compatibility of development with natural features of the site and with surrounding land uses. Item 8, adequacy of flood proofing and flood prevention measures consistent with the flood hazard prevention regulations of the city and the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Item 9, adequacy of open space for play areas, informal recreation, and the retention of natural areas such as wildlife habitats, wetlands, and wooded areas. Item 10, adequacy of pedestrian access. Item 11, adequacy of public utilities serving the proposed development, including but not limited to water, sanitary sewer, electric, storm drainage. Item F, subsection F, the Planning Commission may require additional information that they deem necessary for a complete assessment of the project. Item G, site plan shall be prepared and certified by an engineer, architect, landscape architect, or land surveyor duly registered to practice in the state of Delaware. Item H, upon receipt of the site plan, the Planning Commission shall review the site plan, soliciting comments from other departments, agencies, and officials as may be appropriate. The site plan shall be approved if it meets the requirements of this section, attachment 2, and other requirements of this chapter, and all other federal, state, county, and city regulations. Notice of approval or disapproval of the site plan shall be given in writing to the applicant. Subsection I, submission of concept plan. Item 1, the purpose of a concept plan is for the Planning Commission to formally review the development proposal prior to the substantial commitment of time and expense on the part of the applicant in preparing a site plan. The concept plan shall contain the information contained in attachment 2 to chapter 230 of the city code. Except as provided in section 230-46 I3 below, the submission of a concept plan shall be voluntary. For developments that require a pre-application review per chapter 92 of title 29 of the Delaware Code, the applicant shall submit a concept plan to the Planning Commission prior to the pre-application review. A site plan requiring a pre-application review shall only be submitted to the Planning Commission once the pre-application review is completed and comments provided by state agencies. Subsection J, for a non-residential use subject to the requirements of section 230-36 of this chapter, the plan shall also include a description of the proposed machinery, operations, and products. The applicant shall submit specifications for the mechanisms and techniques to be used in restricting the elements mentioned in section 230-36 of this chapter. The applicant shall submit a written statement acknowledging their understanding of the performance standards at all times. Submitted data will be treated confidentially if the applicant so desires. Subsection K, construction of required improvements. Item 1, upon approval of a site plan, the applicant shall then secure the necessary construction permits from appropriate agencies before commencing work. The applicant may construct only such improvements as have been approved by the Planning Commission or appropriate city review and approval agencies. Item 2, after construction's been completed, inspection of site improvements shall be made by the departments or agencies certifying to the applicable requirements as shown on the site plan. Subsection L, expiration and extension. Subsection 1 beneath. Approval of site plan shall be valid for 1 year, a 1-year period from the date of Planning Commission approval, and shall expire at the end of such period unless building construction has begun. Item 2, upon written request by the applicant within 30 days prior to the expiration of said approval, a 1-year extension may be given by the Planning Commission. Subsection M, prior to the Planning Commission taking any action on any site plan application or performance standard submission, the city may require the applicant to execute a written undertaking in form and substance satisfactory to the city, guaranteeing the payment in full of all costs and fees incurred by the city for consultant and professional review of the submitted plans and performance standards. In appropriate cases, the city administrator may require that the applicant also make a deposit payment or post a surety bond to ensure payment of such costs and fees. The city may withhold issuance of building permits or certificates of occupancy for any multifamily or non-residential use until such cost and fees of plan performance standard review have been paid in full to the city. Subsection N, approval by City Council of site plans. Item 1, when the site plan includes establishment of new streets or dedication of land for streets, public ways, or public facilities, approval will be by ordinance of City Council on the recommendation of the Planning Commission with the advice of the building official. The ordinance, upon approval by the mayor, will constitute approval of the site plan, establishment of the new streets on the city map or plan, and acceptance of the dedications provided for in the site plan. Provided, however, that acceptance of the dedication shall not expose the city to a liability or obligation for maintenance or repair of streets, but such liability or obligation shall arise only following the building official's written acceptance of completion. When the site plan does not include site improvements or establishment of new streets or public ways or dedication of land for public purposes, approval will be by resolution of City Council on the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Item 3, when considering approval of a site plan, the City Council may refer the plan back to the Planning Commission no more than twice with specific questions relating to technical compliance with this chapter, state or federal constitutional requirements, or any other statute or ordinance for which compliance is required. Upon receipt of the Planning Commission's recommendation reaffirming approval of the plan, City Council shall approve the site plan unless a second referral is made because of additional questions or concerns. Upon receipt of the Planning Commission's recommendation reaffirming approval of the plan after review of any additional concerns raised by City Council, Council shall approve the site plan. Item 4, the site plan applicant will promptly file the approved site plan and accompanying documents with the Recorder of Deeds for Newcastle County and inform the building official of the exact place of recordation within that office. Subsection O, inspection and supervision during installation. Item 1, unless specifically provided in this chapter, the construction standards for all off-site improvements and on-site improvements required by this article shall conform to the approved site plan and city design and construction standards. Appropriate city authorities or designee shall approve the plans and specifications for all required improvements and shall inspect the construction of such improvements to assure conformity thereto. Item 2, inspection during the installation of the off-site improvement shall be made by the department or designee responsible for such improvements as required to certify compliance with the approved site plan and applicable standards. Item 3, the owner shall notify the building official within 3 days prior to the beginning of any work shown to be constructed or on approved plans. Item 4, the owner shall provide adequate supervision on the site during the installation of all required improvements and shall have a responsible superintendent together with one set of approved plans and specifications available at all times when work is being performed. Item 5, the installation of improvements as required in this article shall in no case serve to bind the city to accept such improvement for the maintenance, repair, or operation thereof. Item 6, the City Council may require that the expense of independent inspection supervision services during installation be borne by the applicant. Subsection P, upon satisfactory completion of required improvements as shown on the approved site plan or a section thereof, the developer shall submit to the building official 4 copies of the as-built site plan certified by the engineer before occupancy of any building for the review and approval for conformity with the approved site plan. The as-built site plan shall indicate any deviations from the site improvements shown on the final approved site plan. Section 7, the following new table is hereby appended to Chapter 230 of the zoning code as attachment 2. And then what follows is a chart with the basic information required for site plan submission pursuant to the code section 230-46. So I'm not going to read through that, but that is published on the city website and available. It wouldn't make sense if I just read through it, but in any event, I'll move to section 8. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance for any reason is held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 9, in the event any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances are in conflict herewith, the provisions of this ordinance shall control. In section 10, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon passage. And that concludes this first reading. And now for some water. This, of course, goes to the Planning Commission next. By the way, this ordinance was prepared at the instigation of the Planning Commission, but not on their formal motion. They gave the ideas that they wanted. I put it into ordinance form. So since this deals with zoning regulations, this will go back to planning for formal review and recommendation before it comes back to council for public hearing, and then second reading, discussion and vote.
Thank you. I see nothing else on the agenda. Council President Plat,
Can I have a motion for adjournment?
so moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night, all.
All right,
Dan, go
everybody have
have
a
a
great week,
glass of
okay?
water.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Keep up the
Dan.
good work.